4 Session Daily Update. I'm Chris Carpenter. Between the governor's State of the State address and the healthcare insurance premium relief bill being signed into law, a lot happened this past week at the Capitol. Here's a look back at what happened during the week. On Monday, the House Ways and Means Committee sent a bill to the House floor that would bring Minnesota into compliance with the Federal Real ID Act of 2005. House File 3, sponsored by Representative Dennis Smith, would direct the Department of Public Safety to let Minnesotans opt for driver's licenses conforming to Real ID federal standards. That would end a state ban on implementing Real ID that passed the legislature with only one no vote in 2009. Bentley Graves, Director of Health and Transportation Policy at the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, testified in support of House File 3.
We appreciate the quick action to pass this legislation and bring Minnesota in conformity with Real ID. And on this being a fiscal committee, I did want to just mention, we also appreciate the extent to which this legislation will kind of take away the barrier to accessing these licenses by ensuring that folks can get them without cost and ensure that as many folks as possible get them quickly so that, again, commerce can move along in the state of Minnesota.
On Monday, Governor Mark Dayton addressed House and Senate members during his 7th State of the State address. The governor said Minnesotans would judge him on how well he'd kept his 2010 campaign promise of a better Minnesota, and throughout the speech he built his case for that improvement. While Dayton was bullish on the state's achievements over the last 6 years, he also cautioned that many Minnesotans continue to struggle and that economic disparity foreshadowed a very uncertain future for many.
If our country is going to be mired in an era of slower economic growth, our public investments must be even more targeted to ensure that our state's economic performance remains superior to most other states. Thus, we should look closely at every budget expenditure and policy decision and ask ourselves two questions. What will they do to help hardworking Minnesotans now? And how will they help our children and grandchildren in the years ahead?
Governor Dayton's State of the State address was cut short when he collapsed and was treated on the House floor for several minutes while legislators looked on in silence. Dayton was able to stand and eventually walk with assistance to a nearby room. The joint meeting of the House and Senate quickly adjourned. On Tuesday, House Civil Law and Data Practices Policy Committee members considered House File 322. Sponsored by Representative Nick Zerwas, the bill would let units of government recoup public safety costs by suing individuals convicted under unlawful assembly or public nuisance laws.
The bill is not anything new in law, would not be anything new in law that would limit someone's legal First Amendment rights. It would not limit anyone's ability to legally protest. It would not limit anybody's ability to legally petition their government or to demonstrate. What House File 322 is an ability to identify individuals that have broken the law, have been charged with a crime, have been convicted of a crime, and have caused great cost to taxpayers.
18 people gave testimony, all opposed to the bill. Kathy Jones, vice president at the Minneapolis NAACP, said House File 322 would unfairly target free speech and assembly.
The Minneapolis NAACP unequivocally condemns and opposes HF 322 because it would infringe on constitutionally protected rights to free speech and assembly. The burdens of these restrictions would be disproportionately borne by people least able to pay large settlements.
House File 322 was approved by a 9-6 party line vote. The bill goes next to the House Public Safety and Security Policy and Finance Committee. Governor Mark Dayton on Tuesday released his 2-year $45.8 billion biennial budget proposal that includes an expansion of Minnesota Care, increased education spending, and an increase in the state's gas tax. The spending plan, called An Opportunity Agenda for a Better Minnesota, is about $1.2 billion more than the current 2-year budget.
Every one of us wants to create a better Minnesota for our families, our fellow citizens, and for future generations. I challenge all of us in this legislative session, myself included, to cooperate and compromise so as to pass laws that will improve the lives of our fellow Minnesotans.
Republican lawmakers who control both chambers of the legislature said the DFL governor's proposal is too bold.
I was encouraged last night when the governor talked about stability in state government and wanting to make sure that we're maintaining it and that we're finding efficiencies in government, but that growth in spending is of concern. So we will continue to work with him on that, but hope that we can find a more reasonable final number there.
University of Minnesota officials have announced plans to seek a nearly $150 million base budget increase in the upcoming biennium. Weeks before the request is expected to be formally presented to the House Higher Education and Career Readiness Policy and Finance Committee, University President Eric Kaler provided an overview of the institution's statewide impact.
My vision for the future is of an excellent and affordable University of Minnesota, and one that serves the people of Minnesota while preparing the next generation of leaders for our state. That's reflected in our budget, in the decisions we make to develop our budget, and in the initiatives and proposals we bring to you.
Legislators overwhelmingly agreed Thursday to a nearly $327 million compromise intended to assist Minnesotans struggling with swelling health insurance premium costs. A day after a coalition of lawmakers approved a legislative package with input from Governor Mark Dayton's administration, both the Senate and House passed Senate File 1, the Senate 4719, and the House 108-19. Governor Mark Dayton signed the bill that evening.
This is not anybody's idea of a perfect bill, in that nobody got exactly what they wanted. Well, maybe it is a perfect bill, because I think there are things in there that folks on your side of the aisle don't like. I know there are things in there that the governor doesn't like. There are things in there that I'm not wild about. It's a compromise. It's the best job that we could do. I think we can go back and tell our constituents, we went and got something done, we worked together.
Governor Mark Dayton signed the bill that evening. Thanks for watching. For more coverage on the Minnesota House of Representatives, check out our Session Daily coverage at this website, www.house.mn/sessiondaily.